Hey, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Thanks for tuning in to our podcast. This is the second part of our um, podcast for today, and we're actually paying homage or tribute to one of my dear friends, Mr. Ted Brass, that passed away recently. And I know you guys had some fond memories because we spent some time together, the four of us with other people, but we were in the same room on many occasions. And I'm so sad by his passing because he was like my brother. When I first met Ted, the first time I met him, we were doing a transaction. I was the listing agent representing the seller of a home. This was back in 1981, and Ted was the selling agent representing the buyer. I'm sorry, he was representing the buyers. I was I was representing the seller. He was representing the buyers, and it was a smooth transaction. It was my first one. Ted made it so easy for me to look good in front of my clients, and for some reason, he just took a liking to me, and we became best of friends. As a matter of fact, I was his best man in his marriage, his previous marriage, and we spent so much time together. It was to the point where if I was somewhere and Ted wasn't there, they would say, "Where's Ted?" And same thing when Ted was out and I wasn't there, people would ask Ted, "Where was Jerron?" And so we formed a bond. He was about 13 years older than me, so he was a big brother. He was an uncle figure. He was a mentor, but he became my best friend, you know. And to lose him, it breaks my heart because he had so much life.
Yes.
At 77, Ted was more active than people in their 30s and 40s. He loved to travel. He loved sports. He loved, just movies. He loved wine. He just was a Renaissance kind of guy. And so I wanted you, maybe Nancy, to first of all tell me how you met Ted and just give me your impression of him as a gentleman, as a friend,
Yes.
and as a community leader.
That's a great question, and I know we talked about this not that long ago. And Ted, I believe I met Ted through the Mentor Network,
Yeah.
and so I met Ted through you, way back in the '80s. And one thing I will say about Ted, not only was he a mentor, but he had a personality. He was always even. I have never known Ted to go up, down. He's always
Yes.
been the same, always calm, which, as we all know, had touches in real estate, that calmness is really, really important. And so he was a Renaissance man. You hit it right on the head. And it just gives me kind of the chills thinking about it, that, you don't get that.
Right.
That doesn't come along often.
No, he was
He's
one of a kind. One of a kind.
And a kind.
Oh, well, he was a sweetheart of a guy.
Right.
Um, Never had an issue with anybody or anything that I know of. Even, just in handling business,
Right.
he was never greedy. He never was out for himself. He was always giving. As a matter of fact, at his service, I found out that he donated 150 computers or something like that to some kids in Belize. But he was always giving. As a matter of fact, when I was not doing so well financially, or my car was in the shop or something, Ted said, "Hey, you can use my car." He had a little Datsun. I don't know if a little four-door Datsun. I can't remember, it was an 82 or 81. But he just gave me the key and said, "Hey, man, as long as you need it, drive it." And I wasn't too proud not to drive it. I think I had a BMW or I had something that was fancy, but it was in the shop and I didn't have a whole lot of money. And Ted was just gracious enough to allow me to use his car. But going back to the Mentor Network, because I think our listeners may not have, or our audience may not have heard us in the first segment, but we started the Mentor Network in 1987, and Ted was the first person I went to that said, "Yeah, let's do it." And we started bringing in doctors and other real estate agents, attorneys, landscapers, architects, nurses, we had a discipline almost that we had disciplines that represented like almost every facet of business. And again, we would meet every morning, or excuse me, once a week on Kids on Tuesdays. And Ted was always there on time. He was never late. He never called and said, I can't make it. He was always there. And he taught me a lot in terms of how he mingled with people and how he befriended people so easily. It was so natural and so organic. It was really a pleasure to be a friend of his and to call him, or he called me, his best friend, at least for 20 to 30 years of my life. And so I'm still, again,
Right.
I'm glad I'm doing this. It makes me feel good talking about him.
Absolutely.
Because he was so genuine and so unique and so fabulous.
Yeah,
My mother
fabulous.
loved him, my sister, my nephew, everybody I know, has nothing but great things to say about Ted.
And it was, even though you hate this, but it was represented in his homegoing service.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
That was actually pretty impressive.
It was very
He
impressive.
Yes,
had
it
the
was.
Army salute.
Oh, my
Yes.
goodness.
He had the
Taps.
mayor of Inglewood. He
Yeah.
had, the real estate board of directors. or
Consolidated Board of
Consolidated
Realtors.
Board of Realtors. They gave him a
Realtors.
trip to Realtors. But it was an amazing celebration of his life. And Cherie, again, I think I met you through Ted, or at least the first time I recall having some interaction with you was in his office at the service company on La
Yes.
Brea. Tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about your experience with Ted.
Yeah, so I think I was sharing earlier, Ted was the first African American man that I saw so dapper in his suit. I was so impressed. I was probably 22, 23, or coming over to the service company. And what was so important for me was that entering into real estate in the community, I knew I wanted to do commercial real estate. So people were like, well, who do you think you are? And, you got to start over here in residential. I'm like, well, I already have this experience, before. But he was the only person who was like, okay, let me sit you down and explain to you how it works and what you need to do on the sell side. Because I was more on the finance side when I was working for the institutional company. And he taught me about, the pro forma analysis, for a commercial property. What should you consider? Things that we needed to do in terms of making sure you were being properly investigative, and the lay of the land. What was in our community in South LA? Where should you focus? And he was the only person who took that time with me while I was at the service company, and told me that I could do this. It's not like I'd have to start or wait in line or not jump over line. He welcomed me into commercial real estate, so it meant the world to me. And I, again, I didn't have a father figure in my life, so just seeing him, it was like just seeing a person and understanding that something good can come and be in your community, and just understanding, his warmth, he was, like you said, it was always calm. And so going forward, whenever I would see Ted in the room, I knew it was okay to be in that room.
Yeah.
I would say, okay, Ted's here. Okay, I'll go to Ted and go, Ted, what's going on? What do we need to do? Oh, it'll be okay. So you stay because he's there, and if he's not there, then oh, wait a minute here. So he began to represent the type of character that I wanted, and the type of commitment to community that I really wanted to have as well. So I just, it's really hard to explain how pivotal it was for me as a young person entering the market. And I hope I can at least mentor, others just as he did for me.
Yeah, he had a great impact on so many
Yes.
people that
Yeah.
Really.
it may be fair to say that you wouldn't be where you are if it wasn't for Ted. Is
Yeah.
that fair? And I think
I wouldn't have had the courage and the confidence as much, because it was a really important time, because there was so much negative energy coming from the other side. So
Yeah.
I might have left. I might have just said, forget about this.
Right.
But
And
I
so
didn't.
I was, young and ambitious and little bit aggressive, but I kind of chilled because I wanted to make sure Ted was comfortable with my interaction with people that he had some affiliation with.
Right.
And so it was really, um, you know, him keeping me, I won't say in check, but he had so much integrity that if I was going to be his friend or best friend, I had to be a man of high integrity, character, and, you know, a man of value and principles. Ted was also very loyal to his, you know, family and to his church. I mean, he was a deacon, I think, for so many years.
Wow.
No matter how many or how long we stayed out on a Saturday night, Ted was going to church on Sunday morning, and people would love to see him there, and it made them feel more comfortable as well. I got to tell you a story about Ted. The only time I had a disagreement with Ted, or we kind of didn't see eye to eye, or I wasn't happy with Ted, was one time only. It was I was turning, I think, 40 or 45, and the people, my friends, the people from the Mentor Network had decided to throw me a surprise party. It was at Doolin's on Crenshaw. Well, it was supposed to be a surprise party, but Ted told me, he said, "Jerron, I got to tell you something, man. You know, they're throwing you a surprise party." I'm like, "Ted, it's supposed to be a surprise." He said, "Yeah, man, but I don't have time to lie and deceive." And he just didn't have time. He was like, "Man, I'm just going to be honest with you," because he didn't want to go back and forth, and, you know, he didn't want to be involved in misinformation. Right. So, and that's the only time I had an issue with Ted, because you get one surprise birthday party in your life, or maybe two if you're lucky. You're lucky. And my man ruined it for me, but I forgave him because he did so much for me.
It's
and
a good intent that he
yeah,
has.
good intent. Yeah.
That's so Ted. That's so Ted.
Yes.
My
That's so
dad,
Ted.
you know, who's been in the real estate business for over 60 years, has fond memories, and he shared some interactions with him, with me, regarding him and Ted. My wife loved Ted. I talked to his widow, his wife, Jacinta, and we've been kind of crying together, and we've been talking, and, you know, I know it's tough on her, and she was telling me that there was, you know, somebody told her to look out for young men trying to court her or date her. And she said, well, Ted set the bar so high, she doesn't think that somebody else can replace him or even enter that space.
Yeah.
And so that says, you know, so much about my brother Ted.
Absolutely.
He was just, going back to what you were saying, I forget what point you were making, but it was just his being. I mean, he set the example, it was just who he was. He didn't have to try to do or be a certain way. He was just who he was. And so, it was an honor to really
be a part of his
journey. Yeah, and I was a part of his journey for a long while.
You know, for me, I think, you know, I don't know, I never met his parents, but he either had some wonderful parents that taught him well. I know he went to the service and he learned some things. He had some great jokes about the service, and he could tell a joke. I can give him a number, 13. He'd give me a joke because, you know, they spent a lot of time, idle time in the barracks or whatever, telling jokes. But really, for me, I just thought it was just too soon. I had no idea that I wouldn't be spending time with Ted in his 80s, because he's the kind of guy that you think is going to live forever, or at least, you know, live to be 90 or 100. He also was very private, and so a lot of people don't know about his story and the things that he's gone through. And I came to realize at the service that he had a son, and I think we had a picture of his son, and they'll probably put that on the screen again, but he just found his son, who was, I guess he's in his mid-30s or something, or 40s, and I know Ted was just delighted because his son also had a child, so Ted was a grandfather.
Wow.
And just a giving man, a man that I don't think I'll never find somebody like that again in my life, that really kind of took me in and helped me to smooth out some rough edges and kept me balanced and kind of kept me focused on the most important things.
Yeah.
Because when you look at a man like Ted, he didn't waste a lot of time with things that were frivolous.
Right.
I mean, he was always on point to help somebody or to do something or do a real estate transaction to create wealth in our community
Yeah.
through real estate, right?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, he represented me when I got my insurance license and got away from real estate. He did 3 transactions for me. And there's one of my first homes, he sold it, or we purchased it. He was my representative, and I still own that house, which has been over 25 years. And then also, there's another property that he sold me, or he was a representative for a property in Inglewood, a condo, before all the new development. What happened was, he found a property, I think it was a condo, that he had listed, but for some reason, it didn't go through because the seller had some issues, foreclosure, bankruptcy or something, and Ted was like focused on finding me another transaction. And so he was a man of his word. He told me, he said, Jerron, don't worry, we're gonna find something better. And so he found me a 3-bedroom condo in Carlton Square. I inherited a tenant that's, been paying rent for the last 6 or 7 years. But the property value has increased dramatically
Oh, yeah.
because of SoFi and now the new Intuit Dome and all the retail. And so he was a wonderful, not just person, he was a wonderful realtor,
Helped
he was
you
a
build
wonderful
wealth.
friend, helped me build wealth. Absolutely, he's a part of my wealth building team. And there's so many people that I know that Ted did a transaction for. When he passed away, I had a conversation with Daryl Brown, who said, oh man, he gave Ted all of his transactions. If he had a friend or family member that was looking to buy real estate, Ted was the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in closing, I just wanted to, have you guys share some thoughts and, really pay tribute to Ted. I think I'm gonna do a big event,
Yes.
because he deserves to be recognized
Yes.
and to be, kind of, I don't know, we want to memorialize him in the right
Yes.
way,
Exalted,
so
yes.
other people can see, what being a man, a family man, a leader, a community man
What that
looks like,
Yep.
right?
It's
So
important.
this is the first time I'm announcing it, but I think
Yes.
sometime in March or the spring of 2025, I'm going to do a Mentor Network 40-year reunion, and I'm going to pay tribute to my brother Ted Brass,
Great idea.
and also I'm going to pay tribute to the work of Renee Washington. Did you guys
Oh,
both
yeah.
know Renee Washington?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she was a graphic artist, and she was one of the first members of Mentor Network.
Yes,
So
that's
all
where I
the
met her.
all the artwork
I'm
that I
sure probably
did,
know her.
all the souvenir programs, the
Oh, my
brochures, the newsletters, Renee was responsible for creating the graphics work. We would spend time at her house. I mean, I was there 2 in the morning and 3 in the morning working on stuff because I was hands-on and I wanted to be a part of the process. But she was so creative, and she would take my my thoughts, what I had visualized, and she would bring it to life in a brochure or a souvenir program or something like that. So you ladies heard it first. You will be a part of that, and so I want to let you know I'm recruiting you to do whatever to identify other Mentor Network members that were very active back in the 80s and 90s, and just make it a great time and a great celebration of life, and to acknowledge the steadfastness of people like you and Ariva Martin and John Bryan and Richard Benbow from, you mentioned CRA. He was a honoree for us, and Roy Wilkins. There's so many people. There's some Dr. Burdett, Cappy Baker, who's an orthodontist. There's so many people that are thriving and doing well and have had magnificent careers. I don't want to say it was because of Mentor Network, but I think we gave them a platform
Right, to
and an
get started.
opportunity to network and to meet clients and customers and new friends. And I think there were some marriages along the way and some good relationships, and just it was some
Well,
great
we thank you.
times.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And we're gonna close this out with David Sanborn, a Chicago song. That's where Ted was birthed, and this is for you, Ted. This is my simple way of saying, I love you and I miss you, and God bless you for everything that you've done, and rest in peace, my friend. Hope to see you again. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. It's been a pleasure having Cherie Franklin and Nancy Harris, two of my dear friends that I look up to, and I'm so excited about what you've done and what you'll do, over the next few years. And I look forward to spending more time with you, lunch, dinner, cocktails. I think you like wine, Nancy. I think most people like wine, Cherie. So we'll do some wine, or we'll go to the city club and have dinner or something. But thank you for being here, and thank you for being a part of this journey, this ride, and thank you for being my friend.
Thank you.
God
Gerard.
bless.
Thank you.
Yes.